sex is, I think of sex as being a physical act.
Right, I gotcha.
And sexuality is who you are attracted to.
Correct.
So that's how I see it. That's
Now-
how I define those terms.
Now let's kind of look a little more at the clinical. Now, how's the light? Is the light okay right now? Okay. Sexuality, it's our relationship with others. As you said, sexuality is experienced and expressed in thoughts, in fantasies, desires, attitudes, values, behaviors, practices, roles, and relationships. Feelings and fantasies. This is about who you are attracted to and have romantic and sexual feelings and desires about. Behavior. This is about who you're with. Of course, you don't need to have been sexually active with anyone to know what your feelings are. And identity. This means that word or label you use to describe your sexuality. Not everyone likes labels, though. And here we can look at about when we were discussing the continuum back here. So we have behavior, who you think you are, and so you might be one person, but you might be, for each one of these, somewhere in a different position on the continuum. Again here, from female to male. In other words, it's not fluid. It depends. You can be anywhere depending on what we're discussing on the timeline, on the continuum. Sex and gender. One of the first questions we are asked when a baby arrives is it a boy or is it a girl? That answer then determines consciously and importantly unconsciously how we interact with the world and how the world interacts with us. And this is by no chance. Blue versus pink. How would you describe that photograph?
Masculine.
Masculine. I mean, to the nth degree, correct?
Feminine. I mean,
To the nth degree again.
I would say, I mean, obviously, to me, it's very neutral. I mean, but more on the feminine side, more on the.
And here we're getting into where
But
that
it's
kind
ambiguous.
of
As far as,
ambiguous is the word.
I would say more feminine.
More feminine. What if I told you that this was a male?
I wouldn't doubt it. But it's,
Isn't that interesting? But again, when this, and many people consider this art, at art, it's supposed to be the highest compliment to women. And they are reaching for that ultimate feminine goal.
I mean, it's ambiguous, but I'm more on the male side, more on the masculine side.
Let me get the light here. It's a little difficult.
I mean, more on the masculine side.
Definitely. I think I saw her at the club once. I'm interjecting. This
On
is
the
from
masculine side, but definitely.
Madonna's Vogue,
Yeah.
Vogue video, correct?
Yeah.
Sex is the psychological makeup of a person. It is commonly expressed as a binary and used to divide people into males and females. A complex relationship of genetic, hormonal, morphological, biochemical, and anatomical differences that impact the physiology of the body and the sexual differentiation of the brain. Wow. Gender. Gender is how a person thinks, acts, dresses, and speaks, which distinguishes them as masculine or feminine. The sociological construction of one's masculinity or femininity.
So
Again, how they look at it.
Basically, sex is your physical makeup,
Absolutely.
and gender is how you identify.
Absolutely. One's gender can be masculine, feminine, and, or as you mentioned, androgynous. It's socially constructed. How we express gender can be fluid across our lifetime, different across cultures, through our mannerisms, through our name, through our pronouns, through our clothing, and through our social roles. And you'll hear pronouns thrown around a lot in the hallway. I have some identifying students who love two boys that look at each other and it's girl or she, that kind of thing.
When they address each other?
When they're addressing one another in the hallway. Therefore, how we think about gender is usually contradictory, and it's quite varied. The real authority should come from the individual, and we should respect how they feel and how they want and what they want. So again, that is everybody wants self-respect. So understanding what the person wants to be called, you don't really have to think about it very much if you ask, and then they tell you what they want.
I think that's how I just try to, how I interact with my students is,
and I think,
how do you want to be treated,
and not just with sexuality,
just,
with
all
things.
Overall,
and that's really what I really would like. I would like, it's the labels I think that people fear. Because when somebody doesn't understand somebody, or something's ambiguous about somebody, it's, as humans, we want to be able to say, she is this, he is that, she's a Baptist, he's a Methodist. It makes things so much easier for us to put a label on. But when somebody slaps a label on us, we're limited. We become limited. What does not define your gender? Your genitals, your chromosomes, your DNA, what your doctor says, what your birth certificate says, what your parents say, your friends say, your partners say, religious leaders say, what strangers say, the clothes you wear, your favorite color, whether you wear makeup or not, who you are sexually attracted to, who you are romantically attracted to, the books you like, the music you like, the hair length, your hairstyle, your hair color, your hobbies, whether you can carry children or not, whether you wear suits or dresses, your physical strength, your emotional strength, your intelligence, your age, your name, your political views, and your religious views. What does define your gender? You. Sex assigned at birth. Female, intersex, male. Gender expression. Feminine, androgynous, and masculine. And again, note the continuums. Gender identity, woman, lady, girl, genderqueer, pangender, androgen, boy, guy, man. Gender dysphoria occurs when an individual becomes distressed because their gender identity does not match the sex that they were assigned at birth. Problems faced for people with gender dysmorphia. Puberty, finding a supportive doctor to go on hormones, covering the cost of transitioning, marginalization, and rejection. This all leads to depression, poor body image, anxiety, shame, guilt, hard to define sexuality, isolation, and internal conflict. A lack of positive role models.
Dude, check out this shit, right?
What? Don't say that something is gay when you mean that something is dumb or stupid. It's insulting. It's like if I thought this pepper shaker was stupid and I said, man, this pepper shaker is so 16-year-old boy with a cheesy mustache. Just saying. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
Again,
I
pretty
think the
profound.
I think people just fall into that. They use it inappropriately. They use terms. I mean, we can all use terms inappropriately.
And even in a more profound sense, I think that it says that. I think it says in that it states that the fact that that word is already marginalized. So it is a way to anything that is negatively perceived, and I think that's a profound statement. Because what that says is in many ways, anything that is perceived as different is gay. And so it's very insulting. And it doesn't make it any less insulting if it's innocent.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is very important to, but it's about education. And I think also the best way to handle it is like she did. You can come across with education, but in these serious matters, you must approach it because people are already defensive. So if you show them that you're real and not rigid, I think that helps a lot. That's what I hope that we're trying to do here. Now, what are we going to do about it? And again, I'm taking the approach where that I am not being completely dry and I'm not being completely like book by book by book, even though we're discussing it in the capacity of teaching an educator about sexuality and about LGBTQ youth in schools. Because I think that when we go in this direction, we can see that it's not even just about schools. It's about the world. It's about the way that we treat people. Those students are no different outside than they are here. Activity in your groups. Discuss what you would do as a teacher in the scenarios. We're looking at a classroom management level, not at a school policy level. What does that mean? I read something very important about that, and you know what it said? It said, as an educator, you must understand that you are a cog, basically, in a much larger wheel and of administration that goes up, up, and up with very set rules, standards, etc. that you follow. But what you must remember is that in that little space of your room, don't deny that you have a small amount of self-autonomy. And with that autonomy, you can make sure that things aren't addressed on the administrative level, that are told never to be spoken of, through nuance, through it set, like you said, for example, that you don't allow anyone to bully or to say something that is inappropriate. That in your classroom management plan, that you can take that autonomy that you have and you can exercise it. I think that's what's key to a new educator or any educator coming to this. In science class, two girls are mucking around, messing up during an experiment. Student A shouts out, "This experiment is so gay." Student B stands up in front of the whole classroom and tells them they shouldn't use that word. The fighting escalates and student B accidentally outs their friend, student C, who is sitting next to them. Everybody starts laughing. What would you do? Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is a tough one.
And student C is obviously upset,
Yeah.
humiliated, and maybe even beginning to cry.
I think at that point, student C, I would send student C out to the counselor.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point, you would move that student away from, because that student that student needs to address the feelings that come associated. And you're not trained, I'm not trained for that. So maybe, you very politely say, So,
How would you address the students that remain?
I would.
The instigators, the antagonists.
The student, certainly talk to the class and say, you didn't use, the experiment could be boring. Did you use the proper adjective?
Mm-hmm. Would you say anything about how you made that student feel and how inappropriate?
As far as that word's inappropriate. We don't use that word in my classroom. Think of a better word. Think of a better adjective. Student, and then privately maybe talk to student B about maybe you don't need to share the stories. You share your story and not anybody else's.
This is what student C wants. Why did he let it even get to that? To leave the classroom instantly, to be removed from that classroom permanently. For nothing to happen to student A because it will only make it worse. And these opinions change over time. When you're asking a student, they don't want to be even further ostracized, and getting that student in trouble would make them even more ostracized by that student and then eddy forth among other students. So again, their opinions can change over time. Go ahead.
I think overall, you don't single anybody out. You just say that is not a term we use in our class.
And here's exactly what you said.
You just address the whole class that that's not how the climate in our class is supposed to be.
The culture, correct?
Our culture, and so you kind of just.
But that would never happen in your class anyway. And I'm saying this frankly because I think that the culture that you build in the beginning, that's understood, even if it's not overtly stated. You're going to get the class attention. This is a recommendation.
Yeah.
Tell me if you agree or disagree. Explain calmly that homophobic language, intentional or unintentional, is not tolerated.
Yes.
And student A will get behavior points. Set the class their task as quickly as possible, segue away from that, and then ask student C if they would like to leave the classroom. To go, as you said, to the counselor. Report the incident to the person that is in charge, the counselor, immediately, correct?
Yes.
What the teacher actually did got the class attention. Student A got no punishment. Student C got ignored and begged their parents to leave the school that night. Teacher was too concerned with being in power that they forgot about the well-being of the students. Again, just a scenario.
Yeah.
Scenario 2, you are running a phys ed class and you want to play dodgeball. A boy of lower ability is told he throws like a faggot, and the other students target him yelling, "Smear the queer." The boy in question is asking you if he can sit out. What would you do?